about the economy, sir. What's your outlook on the economy next year?
All good. Take a look. Start reporting it the right way.
That's right, Joey. This reminds me a couple of weeks ago when he says, you're looking at the wrong polls. He keeps saying that, wrong polls.
I hope he believes it. I hope he believes it so he kind of rests on his laurels, doesn't campaign too hard, although he did become president from a basement. But I don't want him to take it too seriously because I don't think he can fix it. But I don't want him to start putting Band-Aids on that make things look a little bit better for a short period of time in order to get reelected. I don't want that to happen.
Where do we go from here? 20 seconds to defend Joe Biden, the indefensible.
We go right back to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue because we do have good economic news. But the media doesn't want to cover it. He is correct that we got revised third quarter GDP growth up to 4.9%. Unheard of. Consumer confidence went up 14%, largest jump in a decade. Personal income's up. Grocery and energy prices down last month. Democrats, make your case. There is a case to be made.
Oh, that's gonna hurt!
As the year draws to a close, most networks have found time to designate at least a few wee minutes on the surging economy that on countless occasions outperformed expectations and, believe it or not, did not crash and burn as Trump and many of the MAGA influenced networks suggested it would.
The Biden administration is running on the fumes of the great success of the Trump administration. They're just running on the fumes of what we did with the tax cuts and the regulation cuts. Without us, this thing would have crashed to levels never seen before.
Good news. Gas prices are down, stocks are hitting all-time highs, and consumer confidence is starting to rebound.
And as the holiday shopping season enters the home stretch, people seem to be feeling pretty jolly about the economy. The Consumer Confidence Index rose to more than 110 points. That's the highest number since July. The data is put together by a nonprofit business group called the Conference Board.
Very strong when looking at the GDP. It shows the economy growing at the fastest pace since 2021. And this comes after more good economic news this week, as we reported. Consumer confidence is up in a pretty big way, growing for the third month in a row.
There was one network, however, that did everything possible to avoid discussing said bad economic boom. That is, until Liberal host Jessica Tarlov found a pocket of space between migrant caravans, Hunter Biden, and inflation to remind the American viewers who cocoon themselves off to the outside world, and more often than not, the truth, what is actually happening in said outside world. That the economy is booming.
Where do we go from here? 20 seconds to defend Joe Biden, the indefensible.
We go right back to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue because we do have good economic news. But the media doesn't want to cover it. He is correct about that. He shouldn't just say, you're looking at the wrong thing. They need to communicate this better. But we got revised third quarter GDP growth up to 4.9%. Unheard of. Consumer confidence went up 14%, largest jump in a decade. Inflation is running at an annualized rate below Powell's target, which is why he's talking about a rate cut. Personal income's up. Grocery and energy prices down last month. In the Quinnipiac poll, this part of it is really important. They did a forward-looking question. What do you think 2024 is going to be like? 48% say the economy is going to be better, and 62% think that they are going to be better off in the next year. When is the election?
Give me a medical analogy. Is the economy on life support?
Everything Jessica said is true. Facts matter, and things are getting better, but they're still pretty bad, and people are really hurting when it comes to their rent, when it comes to their food, and their energy, and everything else. So President Biden needs to acknowledge that Americans are still suffering. They can't buy a home.
And here I thought nothing was sweeter than seeing this Fox Business host squirm as Shark Tank's very own Kevin O'Leary sang the Biden-economic Christmas carol on his own show, almost bringing the poor fella to tears.
I'm excited, Larry. We got the juice in printing money. We've got the Fed slowing down. We've got the soft landing. We've got broadening of the S&P 500 and the S&P 500, and obviously the Russell 2000. This is a fantastic holiday season. Rudolph the reindeer has arrived.
The thing is, this shouldn't be as big a story as it is. Reporter reports the truth. It's not exactly front page news. But it's not just Fox that have failed to accurately convey the astronomical job that this administration has done in regards to not only stabilizing a dire economy, but growing it. It's across the board that the media has failed to report this. For this reason, too many Americans are unaware of how this translates to them. Despite the economy's rapid recovery from the pandemic, in many polls, the majority of Americans still say that they trust the former president, yes, that guy, of handling the economy over Biden.
If he's elected, the stock market will crash.
Okay. So the Dow's never been higher. The other averages racing along.
That bell marks a new record high for the Dow Jones Industrial Average, going to close above 37,000 for the first time ever.
Which is absolutely bananas. But Trump knows this, and he is, if not anything, a decent salesman, and he's leaning into this amidst his fascist outbursts, of course, during his rallies.
This thing would have crashed to levels never seen before. And if we're not elected, we will have a depression, the likes of which you haven't seen since the Depression of 1929. We're not talking about a recession. You're going to have a lot worse than that.
And what this means is it is a catastrophic failure across mainstream media. So let me clarify the difference between both economies. Employers have created 14 million jobs during the Biden administration, with a monthly average of more than 400,000 positions.
199,000 jobs added in November. The unemployment rate came down to 3.7%.
Overall, you got to look at this report as a big positive. We've got more jobs created than expected.
By contrast, the economy added an average of 176,000 jobs a month during Trump's first 3 years, before, of course, coronavirus-related closures and layoffs. As for GDP, it has grown about 22% since Biden took office. That's compared with a 14% uptick during Trump's presidency, despite him singing his own praises and claiming that Biden could never.
GDP for the quarter just released at 2.6%. So that's so much higher than anticipated. Remember, I was saying we're going to try and hit 3% sometime over the next period of 2 years. Well, 2.6 is getting closer, Gary, closer than we thought and a lot faster than we thought. But don't worry about the 3. We're going to be higher than 3 in the not too distant future, too. So we're setting economic records, and we're very proud of it. And that's, GDP were just released. And I am thrilled to announce that in the second quarter of this year, the United States economy grew at the amazing rate of 4.1%. And these are great numbers.
Very strong when looking at the GDP. It shows the economy growing at the fastest pace since 2021. And this comes after more good economic news this week, as we reported. Consumer confidence is up in a pretty big way, growing for the third month in a row.
Under Biden, the economy has notched 5 straight quarters of growth following a 6-month slump last year. The latest expansion has been powered by heavy consumer spending, which makes up about 70% of the economy. And let's talk gas prices, shall we?
Yeah, well, the consumer confidence report is up. We've got lower gasoline prices. We've seen inflation data come down.
And studies have shown that they have a direct effect on how Americans view the economy. And higher prices at the pump have translated to lingering pessimism for much of Biden's presidency. Well, let's talk about it. After Trump woefully mismanaged the pandemic, downplaying its severity amidst calls to inject each other with disinfectant. Yes, remember that.
Ultraviolet or just very powerful light. And then I said, supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do either through the skin or in some other way, right? And then I see the disinfectant where it knocks it out in a minute.
He left Biden with an economy in tatters. Combined with worldwide inflation and the war in Ukraine, gas prices, yes, they did go up. Much higher than Trump's last year in office because, well, nobody was driving that whole supply and demand thing that they teach you about in Business 101. Well, now they're down, with analysts predicting gas prices could fall below $3 per gallon by the end of the year.
There hasn't been a positive thing happen in this administration since it came about.
Results matter. Inflation now is down to 3.2%. Wages are up to 4.4%. The economy is booming, 5.2% GDP growth in the last quarter.
With a gallon of gas now at the lowest Thanksgiving price since 2020, prices for gasoline down 9 straight weeks.
By so many measures, the economy is in good shape. Unemployment near 50-year lows. Wages going up. The economy, it is growing. Inflation, it is slowing.
Because of the CHIPS and Science Act, one of the most significant economic plans since FDR. I'm proud of the work Biden and Harris have done.
President Biden and his team worked 24/7 with partners in the region to make sure that this release was possible. This is a president who is right now showing the American people what real leadership looks like.
And there are countless other areas, from unemployment, the lowest black unemployment in history under Biden.
And look, you may remember my predecessor promised to be the greatest job president in history. Well, it didn't really work out that way. He lost 2 million jobs over the course of his presidency, 2 million. We've created 13.4 million new jobs. We not only recovered all the jobs we lost during the pandemic, we've added millions more. We've seen record lows in unemployment, particularly, and I've focused on this my whole career, particularly for African Americans, and Hispanic workers and veterans.
To lowering prescription drug prices, costs of insulin, infrastructure, etc. So if this message from Jessica Tarlov falls on deaf ears, then send this to your friends so that they know. The economy is booming.
Hey Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.